Welcome, everybody. The NFL regular season is over, and we are looking forward to next season now, as most NFL teams are. And we're going to start off by doing some team mock drafts as we head into the offseason. The first team we're going to look at is the first overall pick, Chicago Bears. As mentioned, the Chicago Bears have the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. They lost the last game of the season while the Houston Texans won, which put them in position to have this pick, which is a luxury because they already have a quarterback in Justin Fields. Some analysts say that they should be taking a quarterback anyway. I don't think that's the case. In this mock draft, we will not be doing trades. It just seems like in some of these simulators, some of them aren't that accurate in terms of what you can get back in trade value. So we'll see what will happen here when we stick with the Bears' first overall pick. We're going to be using NFL Mock Draft Database. I find it to be pretty good in terms of a big board that has active players who are in the draft. All the guys going home to school, they are no longer in this one, so it makes it a little bit more accurate. I also think the rankings are a little bit more in line with how I see things. So we're going to get it started. So we'll get started with the Chicago Bears. Their first pick. Be a lot of trades that pop up here. We're going to, like I said, reject most of them as we get started here. Their first overall pick. That's a lot of picks. Wow. I think has to be Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama. Jalen Carter would also be a good option as they do need defensive line as well. But edge rusher, they just traded away Robert Quinn. They don't have Khalil Mack anymore. If you get that good edge rusher, if you take this pick, this is be a really home run pick for them. As Will Anderson's a really good pass rusher, but he's also a good run defender. Could really help set the tone for that defense. And you can get help for Justin Fields later in the draft. So we're going to go ahead and take Will Anderson out of Alabama. And again, could have been Jalen Carter with this one as well. But at the end of the day, I think his edge rushers usually get pushed up draft boards. Edge rushers, wide receivers, quarterbacks. We know how the league is working these days. One of the best pass rushers we've seen in the last couple drafts, probably since Chase Young, I would say. I also like Kayvon Thibodeau last year, who got selected by the Giants. But he's definitely really, really polished as a player and can really help the Bears right now. Again, we're just going to reject all these trades. A lot of trades, too. The Bears need offensive line help for Justin Fields. They need wide receivers. They need defensive linemen. Darnell Washington at tight end is a absolute freak, 6'7", 275. But they already have Cole Kmet. DeJuan Jones is a really good right tackle. Dalton Kincaid, a good receiving tight end. With the way the board is sitting and the fact that we're not doing trades, I think we're going to go with DeJuan Jones, the right tackle at Ohio State. He is a mammoth of a man at right tackle, a lot of power. He has some familiarity with Justin Fields as well, playing with him at Ohio State. So I think this would be a really good pick for them, about where the value is, and I think that'd be a good one. All right, the next pick now we have the second pick in the second pick in the second round with this one. And again, a lot of the same positions are there. Mazie Smith out of Michigan had a pretty good year. Some off-the-field issues with him as well, but he was cleared enough to play for Michigan during their college football playoff game, which is important. Also a guy I like here, Cedric Tillman for Tennessee. He was a little bit hurt this year, and Jalen Hyatt took some of the spotlight for Tennessee. But he was the SEC's leading receiver returning going into this year. I think he's a really good player. I think he's got the size to be a good weapon and can really complement Justin Fields in that offense, along with Chase Claypool, who they traded for this past season. That's the reason why they don't have a pick at the top of the second round. They might be regretting that one too. Chase Claypool didn't really pan out for them as much as they would have hoped. All right, we'll move on to our third round pick here. Again, D-line, position of need, interior offensive line, linebacker, corner. They got Jalen Johnson, but I think they might be using another one too. So Garrett Williams does make some sense. He had a really good career at Syracuse. You could get more help for Justin Fields, get Marvin Mims. He was really good for Oklahoma. But I think I would take Garrett Williams, not just because he's at the top of the board, but just get some more help for that secondary. You have good safeties, Jaquan Brisker and Eddie Jackson. Get Garrett Williams, see if he can develop into something and help out that secondary. The other thing, too, they already got the offensive lineman for Justin Fields. They got the wide receiver. They may be looking at a running back in this draft. We have David Montgomery is an impending free agent. We'll see if they end up bringing him back here. It's always tough to find out which players people will bring back next season. DeMarvion Overshawn, he was really good for Texas over the last couple of years. He could have left after last season decided to come back for another year and tried to develop. He would be a good pick here at linebacker for the Bears. Steve Avila, he was good on the TCU playoff run this year, a pretty good interior offensive lineman. Emil Ekiyor, he was projected to be an all-SEC player. Maybe he fell a little bit below expectations. But a guy I really like is Keanu Benton for Wisconsin. He's been really, really good for them. He's a guy that I think will athletically test pretty well and can really help the interior of that defense, which, again, just doesn't have a lot of the key players they had a couple seasons ago. Secondary has some good players. They'll have to get some of those other guys to help them out. And now with Avila still on the board, I think you get that interior offensive lineman to help Justin Fields as well. Look, just the development of Justin Fields is the most important thing for this team as they move forward. Would be interesting to see if they can rehaul it much like the Bengals did this past offseason. It'd be hard to do it as much as the Bengals did, but that would still be nice if they could. And we take a look at the board now. A.T. Perry's a bigger wide receiver from Wake Forest. I could see him being a good pick. Jamie Robinson, I mean, they're pretty set at safety if you ask me, but that could be a pick. Kendre Miller was a really good running back for TCU. Got hurt in that playoff game. Did not end up playing in the national championship, which might maybe set them back a little bit. But I'm going to double up on wide receiver. I'm going to go A.T. Perry. He was a big playmaker for Sam Hartman at Wake Forest over his time. It's a bit bigger body too. They can move guys around in that offense, give them a couple different looks. I think Justin Fields, again, is just so important to this team's future that I would spare no expense in getting him all the help he needs. Looks like we got one more pick here. It is in the 6th round. And a bunch of trades for this one, too. I normally would accept trades like this if you have a 6th-round pick, but the way we're doing it, see, it's just not really reliable when they're giving up a 1st-round pick next year for a 6th-round pick. We're not gonna cheat the system here and do that. So, let's see. You need linebackers. At this point, a lot of depth, but I usually at this point like to go for depth picks or best player available. Depth picks, guys who can make the roster. There's their quarterbacks down here: Clayton Tune, Max Duggan. But I think you just want to keep the quarterback room pretty clean for Justin Fields. Just get a veteran to kind of help him out and let him go the rest of the way and see how he does. Mohamed Diabate, was pretty good for Utah. They have a really physical defense. Don't know if we'll be able to turn into anything, but can't pass up the value there. Looks like the only pick they didn't really love for me was A.T. Perry. I mean, that makes sense. I stayed at the top of the board with this one. But that is the final result. I mean, if you get this, if you're the Bears, I think you have to feel happy. You get some protection for Justin Fields. You get an edge rusher in Will Anderson, who's again really, really good. One of the best ones we've seen since maybe Chase Young. Cedric Tillman could turn into something. A.T. Perry could turn into something. The one thing I regret not leaving the draft with maybe would be a running back, and that's just depending on what they do with David Montgomery. Khalil Herbert also had a really good year, but I think you're going to need more than one running back in today's NFL. So that is our Chicago Bears mock draft. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back with more mock drafts as draft season approaches. Thanks.